Hey, welcome back to this mini-series on personal branding. Now, if you haven't checked out the first two videos, I recommend you do so. In part one, we talked about the concept and how to actually develop a concept. Part two, we looked at visual identity. I'll put some links on the screen now and also in the description if you want to go and check out part one and part two. Really important you watch them before we get onto this. So in today's video, I'm really excited to actually get down to the nitty-gritty of how to start implementing your personal branding. So firstly, what kind of posts you can create, how often you should be posting these types of content, what kinds of content you can create. You know, should you be creating videos? Should you be creating slide decks? Should you be creating carousel posts on Instagram? We're going to be covering all of this in today's video. And also finally looking at repurposing content. This is something that I'm big on. It will save you so much time, it's untrue, and also it's really, really powerful as well. So we're going to be covering all of this in today's video, all about implementation. So let's get going. All right, so implementation. How can you actually begin rolling out your personal brand? We talked about how you can design it. Once you start getting some content together, which platform should you post on? I'm going to focus on the top 5 today for me, which are LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Now, I find that some of these platforms work a little bit better for me than others. So first of all, you should be asking yourself, which platforms do you think you should be on? I'm going to kind of give you my perspective on which platforms are good for which type of audience. I have a presence across all of these platforms. It is a lot of work to maintain this, but I have found that I'm getting better results from some platforms more than others, which might be different for you, might be different for the sort of audience that you're trying to reach. Let's start off with LinkedIn now. LinkedIn is currently, in my opinion, the king of organic reach. I've found that if I post on LinkedIn and I post good content, I get good engagement, I get likes, I get views on the content, and I can see how many views I'm getting. Facebook, for example, has completely changed their algorithm over the past few years, and it used to be that you could build a really good page with a captivated audience. Nowadays, your content on Facebook seems to go amiss unless you pay to promote it. LinkedIn, you still have that benefit. It doesn't cost you anything to actually get that engagement, which is great. Now, in my opinion, LinkedIn is good if you're in business, you're selling maybe B2B products and services. It's really good for demonstrating proof of knowledge and sort of establishing yourself as an expert within a specific industry or market or niche. So I think, to start off with, when you're posting on there, every post should demonstrate or encourage discussion around a specific topic relating to your market or your niche. Don't go posting vague kind of motivational content on there, unless maybe that's what you do and you're kind of a motivational guru or whatever. For me, I like to keep my posts focused on my industry and what I know about as my area of expertise, because I find that's best to establish me as an authority on that specific topic. Polls are working really well right now, and the great thing about polls is you can really encourage discussion around a specific topic, and also engage with your audience. It's really good for research as well, because you actually figure out what people are thinking or what trends there are. I recommend on LinkedIn posting a couple of times a week. Some people do post daily, some people post more than once every day. I think 1 to 2 times per week, and concentrate your efforts on making sure that when you do post it has a good effect, is a time better spent. PDF decks I've had some good results with. I'm going to show you a couple of examples in a bit. If you're going to be using video on LinkedIn, I recommend you actually upload it to LinkedIn. There are some limitations, so I think you can only upload 10 minutes maximum. If your video is longer than 10 minutes, just upload a kind of a trailer or the first clip. Don't upload or link to YouTube, because the idea of social media platforms is they're all kind of competing for screen time at the moment. They want to keep you on their platform. So if you're linking out to someone else's site, e.g. Facebook or YouTube, or even your own website, LinkedIn are not going to rank that post as well. So I think uploading video to the LinkedIn platform is the best way of going. You can get some good view counts like that as well. Likewise, in your main post, don't link to your own website. If you're going to put a link, put it on the first comments, because then your post won't get sort of clamped down on as much. If you've just got a link going out to another website, the algorithm won't favor that post, and it will sort of, as I say, clamp it down, and you won't get as many views, you won't get as many comments or reactions. So here are examples of some of the decks that I've put out recently. I did a how to make a shit podcast one, got about 17,000 views. Again, we got the Hunter's Guide to Catching Your Ideal Podcast Guest. This was kind of comedy stuff. Got about 6,000 to 6,500 views on there. Again, some good interaction, some good comments. I will probably take these and repost them at some time. This was a few months ago when I was posting this stuff. Again, free guide to the world's best podcast guests. These sort of slides are just PDFs that I've created and uploaded, and you can kind of click through them. They seem to work very well on LinkedIn. They seem to keep people's attention on the post and also generate good reactions. Just make sure that the content you're posting, number one, the first slide is very important because it needs to get their attention. Hence, I've got these kind of zany, wacky titles, and I've injected a bit of comedy into them. Or it needs to have a really good, strong promise, because ultimately what you want people to do is click on that arrow button to read more. The other thing I mentioned before is polls. Now, these have been really working very well for me indeed recently. I've done a poll every single week for probably the past 2 months, and we tend to get 5,000 or so views of the polls, getting good engagement, and also getting 300 or so votes for each poll as well. This data is really valuable to me because I obviously work in the podcasting industry, so I'm specifically quizzing people on their habits and behaviours around podcasting. And also it's just interesting to see what people are commenting on and trying to get involved in that discussion, because again, it gives me great ideas on how I can form content to help people. So give polls a go. It's a relatively new feature. It hasn't been around for that long, but seems to be working a treat at the moment on LinkedIn. The other thing which I think is worth mentioning, and I'm a huge fan of, is LinkedIn Live. Now, I really love doing live streams, and especially when it's business related stuff. Here are a couple of recent ones you can see on the screen now. How to create an engaging podcast concept and grow on social media. That was actually recorded, or was broadcast yesterday, should I say. And also building a dedicated audience for your business. Now, these guests are, come onto this show and we just do a live video stream. It generally lasts around 40 minutes, 45 minutes. I tend to get 300 or so people watching. It's not huge numbers, but then I am working in a very niche industry, so those 300 people are watching are really interested in what I'm talking about, so it's worth doing. It takes only about an hour of my time each week, so this is fantastic. You have to apply if you want to be able to broadcast live on LinkedIn. If you apply, one of my tips is to actually reference other live streams that you've done. Perhaps you've done them on YouTube or Facebook, and prove that you can conduct a good live stream that's relating to business kind of content. I think what they want to avoid is people who are just going to be like streaming Fortnite games or whatever. So, if you can give some examples of live streams you've done previously, I think that will help your application. But again, it took me a few months before I was approved. So I wanted to come up with a concept. So the working lunch concept is really straightforward. It happens 1 p.m. every Wednesday. I ask the guest to bring 3 actionable strategies to the table. And it keeps the format quite loose, so I don't have to spend a lot of time preparing for it each week as well, which is great. Next up, Instagram. Now, I think Instagram's great for photos. Obviously, it's meant to be a photo platform and sort of inspirational vanity type content. I see a lot of people who are posting, how to be a successful entrepreneur working on there, or how to, gather your mindset together, or, motivational sort of content. This stuff, sort of content, isn't really what I'm about, and I don't really post a lot of that kind of thing. So maybe that's why my Instagram is not taken off as much as some people's. I think my perspective on Instagram is, like a lot of people are on there to kill time. They're not necessarily going to be valuable leads for you. It's mobile first. You obviously run ads on Instagram, which can be very, very effective, but you have to pay for that, and you have to do that via the Facebook platform. If you're posting daily, which is what I recommend, make sure you put tags that are relevant to what your market or your niche is, so people who are subscribed to those tags can see or find your content. Tags are all about discoverability. For me, I've seen that photos and faces, and quite often they are just stills from my videos, seem to be doing really well. They seem to be working better than just like graphic content. But then also carousels. I've posted a few carousels which are just like bulleted images just to kind of engage people and tell people about certain things. Have been doing well. As I mentioned before, vanity platform. If you're selling, makeup or something like that, sort of fancy shoes or t-shirts or something, I can see why Instagram is so powerful. But for what I do, I don't think it's worthwhile. Again, you need to make your decision on this. What I do like about Instagram is the story content. I think it's a really personal way of engaging with people. If I've got a working lunch coming up that day, I'll quite often just do a story. Again, you can do stories every single day if you want, if you've got the time to do it, and just make sure you're posting quick tips and keeping people up to date. Using your bio link wisely is another tip, because obviously when you post on LinkedIn, you can't actually link out to another website. The links don't work in the actual posts themselves, so your bio link is crucial. You can change this as often as you'd like, so I think whatever you want to point people to, whether that's kind of like an opt-in page or a live video on a video which you've just uploaded to YouTube, think about what it is that you want to drive people to right then, and make sure that you change your bio link. Or you can use one of these services like Linktree or a link in bio or whatever. So here's some examples of Instagram. We've got this carousel, how to find a perfect radio voice, which was like one of my YouTube videos, which performed really well. Again, it's done quite well. We just took some kind of key learning points from that and posted it on Instagram as a carousel. You see, more recently I've been posting lots of stills and photos from my videos because they tend to work quite well. Now, YouTube. I think this is my favorite. I've got a great relationship with YouTube. It goes back a long time. I've been uploading to YouTube probably for 11 or 12 years now, and I began specifically uploading content for my businesses. I really wish that back then, when I sort of started out uploading content, I'd actually just done it under my own name, and I've only started really focusing on my YouTube channel as a person, for my personal brand, really this year. So actually, it is still possible to grow a YouTube channel in 2020. I know a lot of people say it's not, or it's very hard, but you have to work incredibly hard. You need to make sure that you're pushing out content regularly. I post one video a week on a Friday, and that's kind of like what we can manage based on my schedule and the team that working with me. I would quite like to upload more than once if I could, maybe twice a week. Maybe we'll get there one day. I think YouTube's good for the community. There are lots of people who will comment on your material, especially if you're posting useful stuff. Try and have long form videos that are 10 minutes or longer. Again, if you've got live streaming enabled on YouTube, I think it's enabled for everyone now. It's worth going live now and then. It's a good way of engaging with people. Personally, the sorts of videos that I think work well for personal branding is like how-to style information, and this can either just be presentations like I'm doing now, or it can be you talking to the camera, or you interviewing other people like my live streams. Really up to you what you use it for. I just think one of the key things that I've discovered is look at what sort of content is ranking well for other people. See which videos are getting huge numbers of views, and sort of think, okay, how can I apply that to my audience, or how can I kind of create an updated version of that content. Interestingly, one of the things that I did with my personal YouTube channel is I took a channel I had for one of my previous businesses, which has since kind of been merged into radio.co. It was called a company called Wave Streaming, which I ran for a number of years, and it had about 2,000 subscribers. So I took that channel because it was already kind of relevant content. I deleted a bunch of videos and I left some of them there, and I started re-uploading to it. I changed the channel name to my name, so I had a little bit of a head start. But I've managed to grow the audience by almost 2,000 subscribers actually in the past sort of 6 to 8 months. It did take a while for things to get going again because we haven't uploaded to this channel for like 4 years. But I guess it just goes to show, if you're consistent and you post good quality content, you can grow an audience in 2020. I think the main thing to do in YouTube is make sure you've got a clear call to action within the video. So at the end of the video, give people something, give people a reason to go onto your website and download a free report or subscribe to get access to further videos, whatever it might be. Make sure you've got a call to action and use that to generate leads. I've done this for the past at least 11 years, 12 years, since 2008, 2009 I sort of started doing this, and it must be responsible for probably close to I'd say nearly 1 million leads I've probably generated from this method over the past sort of 12 years. for the various different businesses I've had or been involved with. It is powerful and it works really well. So here's some examples of content. Again, why answer questions. This is one of my most recent, or one of the videos from the start of the year. Why start a radio station in 2020? Obviously, I have a company called radio.co. What we use this to do is drive traffic into our main funnel. Obviously, this is posted as me. We post lots of videos as radio.co as well. It's worth noting you can cross-promote your content. So if you're posting content as you as a personal brand, well, your company channel, so you can see down here, I've got a community tab, and I will actually drive traffic to my personal videos from the company videos when I think it's relevant. So if I'm posting about radio, so for example like why start radio station or how to get a cool radio voice that sounds amazing, I will promote that content on my company's YouTube channel. That kind of helps create this momentum, and also ultimately that traffic that subscribe to my company's channel will often then come and subscribe to me. So you've got two channels that you can present and get cut through to your audience versus one, which is really powerful. That's why a lot of YouTubers have a second channel as well. Okay, let's move on to Facebook and Facebook pages. Now I think Facebook's good. In fact, it can be great if you want to run adverts. Historically, you could build an audience on your page and get a really good community going, get organic reach, people commenting and liking your posts. Very, very difficult to do now. Doesn't seem to work unless you want to put ad spend behind those posts. They changed their algorithm probably about 2 years ago, so really you don't get much traffic to your organic posts on your pages. They want to see Facebook as a way of people engaging with each other, and obviously this is to try and encourage people to spend more on their advertising. And you know what? Facebook as an advertising tool is really powerful. That's another video, so I'm not going to really discuss that today. I think actually creating Facebook groups can be a good way of building a community around a certain topic. Now I'm going to be honest, I haven't tried this myself. I'm a member of lots and lots of industry groups, and some of them get posts, hundreds of comments on a post. So I think if you can run one of those groups and sort of admin it or moderate it, could be a really good way. But again, I think if people see the group as just a blatant way of driving traffic to a business, they're not going to join. It's not going to really get as much engagement. So I think you've got to create a group coming from the right place, if that makes sense. So if you create a group, it can't really be this is a group by this company. It's got to just be a group to talk about X. Again, getting the community built in the first place can be a bit tricky. But to give you some other stuff, I think if you're a member of groups, I don't post in groups a lot, but I use them to generate ideas, to see what my pain points are in different markets that I'm involved with. So groups can be great for that research stuff. And also live video seems to work really well still on Facebook. I regularly do this working lunch thing. It used to just be on LinkedIn. Now I make sure I premiere it on I push it out live on Facebook, and sometimes I premiere videos on Facebook as well, which again seems to work. It seems to get better engagement and more views than if I was just to post a video. If you do like a premiere, which basically just puts that video live at a certain time, sends people notifications when that video goes live. Okay, so finally, let's move on to Twitter. Now, I think Twitter is fantastic for audience engagement specifically. And it's good for encouraging discussion, particularly, once you've got an audience built, you post questions, you post polls, people will generally respond, and they like to be part of the commentary of things on Twitter. Again, hashtags still have their place. Make sure that you're researching relevant tags, run polls, post questions, retweet your company's messaging. Make sure your company is retweeting you as well. Again, it's about cross promotion. Ensure that you're using Twitter to drive traffic to other posts on different platforms. So if you put a new video out on YouTube, tell your Twitter audience about it. There's something called promote mode on Twitter. I think promote mode can be great. Sort of lazy man's way of advertising and sort of building a little bit more of an audience. The idea is it sort of uses its algorithms and whatnot to promote certain posts that you're posting. I notice it's had some impact, and I have grown my audience on Twitter somewhat. I don't think it's amazing. It's certainly not like a big game changer. I don't have time to spend creating and running Twitter ads. Again, I've not got a huge amount of experience running adverts on Twitter. I know some people get good results. One thing I've noticed, visual tweets stand out more. So if you're posting a tweet, attach an image to it, it will stand out more in the feed. Again, short form native videos get views. But remember, it's muted by default, so you might need to put sub-captions on them. And also, I think I just mentioned this briefly before, using Twitter to drive traffic to your website and your social channels. So as I mentioned, these videos, they seem to get a few hundred views, which is pretty good considering I've only got an audience of, I think 3,000 or so. So, view count's pretty good. Again, I don't know if this is related to the fact I've got promote mode turned on. Again, here's a bit of an example of one of my company's, Matchmaker. I've retweeted the post. Make sure you're retweeting stuff. Make sure your companies are retweeting you, because it always helps. And of course, retweeting other people as well, it helps get their attention. Okay, so next up, I wanted to show you quickly how you can manage all of this. I want to show you a couple of tools that I've used for social media management. Okay, so I just wanted to give you some recommendations for platforms which will help you automate your social media and really plan the week ahead to make sure that you're regularly posting content without having to remember to actually post it each day, which obviously can become quite a lot of work and quite monotonous. So we use later.com. In the past, I've used Buffer or Mulvany. These are 3 tools that I have no hesitation to recommend. They all kind of do the same thing. There's probably little ups and downs and pros and cons of each. Currently, we're mainly focused on using Later. We used Buffer for years, and we tried Mulvany for about a year, but we've decided to sort of consolidate all of our accounts into Later. Now, the great thing about these tools is, you can run and manage multiple business profiles. So we have, for example, here you can see our podcast.co accounts are connected, and also matchmaker.fm accounts are connected. You can upload all of your assets and store them within these services, which is great if you want to repurpose and repost content. Just because you've posted something once doesn't mean you shouldn't post it again a couple of weeks later. Not everyone will see each piece of content, so feel free to post that content again and again and again. And eventually, you'll start building up that traction. The cool thing about these tools is they work just like a regular calendar, so you can really plan for the week or the month ahead. You can even go ahead and plan the next month. We're not that organized, but if you want to be super organized, you could even plan 2 months worth of content or whatever. You can also drill down into the current week, and you can kind of see, what posts are scheduled, etc. Super simple to use, so I recommend using one of these 3 platforms, either later.com, buffer.com, or Mulvany.com. They're all doing the same thing. They all allow you to post and schedule content across multiple social media channels. Okay, Natalia, I guess just start off by introducing yourself and tell us a bit about what you do.
Sure, James. Thank you so much for the invitation. I think the easiest way to describe myself is being a flawsome human being. So what is flawsome? Flawsome is a mix between being full of flaws and but at the same time, knowing that you're pretty good at a decent human being. A lot of people say like, okay, fine, so you're into self-development, but what does that actually mean? I am a personal branding strategist, a keynote speaker, and an edutainer. So I love to tell people stories. I love to teach them something new. I love to inspire them. And the topic that I know quite a bit about is personal branding, how to build a personal brand, why personal branding, especially with the focus on LinkedIn. And that's also the reason why some people call me a LinkedIn marketing unicorn.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, we came across each other on LinkedIn a few months ago, and I see you're very big on live streaming, which I think is great. I'm sure we'll get onto that in a bit. But what is it about LinkedIn that appeals to you the most?
I love the, let's say, mindset that people are in, or the primary reason why people use this platform. So I'm a person, I love to achieve goals. I'm very focused, I'm very determined, and I don't have time for BS. And time is one of my biggest, most precious resources. So while people use Facebook and Pinterest and Instagram and all of that to communicate, to be entertained, to have fun with friends, yes, that is also part of social media. I use social media primarily as a business tool. So it's all about information, about teaching, about networking, about making connections, about getting to know new clients, about connecting people with each other, about getting the most out of it. And LinkedIn is just the best platform for that, because this is exactly the reason why people use it. LinkedIn isn't as saturated as other platforms. So we have 675 million users compared to 2.5 billion on Facebook. So, hey, it's so much easier to stand out.
Let's kind of get into the topic of personal branding then, because obviously, I think it's really important to look at the platforms that we have available to us as marketers or business people. I think LinkedIn is a great way to focus. But when it comes to actually starting to roll out and implement a personal brand, obviously in this video series, the first sort of couple of videos, we looked at kind of implementing and kind of coming up with a concept, and then rolled on to coming up with a bit of a visual identity. But when it actually comes to rolling it out, what is your strategy for taking something that's kind of really a concept and actually starting to turn it into posts that can be used and seen and interacted with people?
So I've developed a personal branding approach that is quite holistic. And I think that's a word that you would never, ever imagine in combination with personal branding. So I'm a big believer in work on your personal brand on the inside, on the outside, offline and online. So you need to do the inside work first. Things like, who am I? What do I stand for? How do I want to be perceived? How do I want people feel? Why should people work with me? What kind of problem do I solve? Etc., etc. Once you have done that, only then we can get to the next stage, which is kind of the outside world, which is, to make it super easy, a little bit more like the vibe or the packaging, because hey, we all buy products based on their covers, right? Everybody says, yeah, don't judge a book by its cover and all of that, but we do anyway. It's kind of wired into us as a human being. We judge people, and this is hard wired into us because we need that to survive. So if you come from a background where I come from, and I believe that personal branding is a must, it is not an option, and it's based on the idea that life is just a stage, why don't you play that role in order to be perceived in a specific way to reach your target? Once we have all of that, okay, cool. I need to package myself in a specific way to be perceived in a specific way so that people really understand who I am and what I do. And once we've done that, we take all of it and then we apply it. And you decide what the platform is. If you say, I want to go all in on Instagram or LinkedIn, or you want to become a blogger, or you're saying, you know what, no, podcasting is my thing, you choose the platform. Let's talk about LinkedIn because that's my expertise. So once we choose LinkedIn, it starts with a great profile. You need to invest in a profile that is not a boring online CV, but it needs to be a landing page. It needs to be a source for your clients. You need to make sure that people spend a lot of time there, that they get to know you, that you share your story, that it makes sense, that it's interesting. For everybody who feels a little bit overwhelmed when I say landing page or web page, think about it like a shop window. And my job is to make sure that your shop window is super amazing and it stands out and it's colorful, and that people recognize it, and that they walk into that store and that they touch things, or that they, try them or smell them, or that they have this amazing user experience. And who knows, maybe they even buy something from that shop. So my job as a LinkedIn marketing unicorn is to make sure that people know about the shop, they talk about the shop, they love the shop, they enter the shop, and they share this information with their friends. This is the first step.
Okay, and what do you think? What are the key sort of top few things that you need to be thinking about when you're like, okay, I'm going to drag my LinkedIn profile into 2020 and make it kind of more vibrant and exciting and make it more appealing for the sorts of customers, all sorts of clients that I want to reach?
Invest in a professional picture, and the picture should be professional, but also show you in an approachable way. I know way too many people who still go for this classic 1990s power pose. I'm a grumpy, way self-too-confident manager, crossed arms, chin a little bit too high. The sides of the mouth are down. You see a little bit of, I don't know, like angry lines around your eyes.
I'm really serious.
Yeah,
I'm not here to mess around, right?
Exactly. Who wants to work with such a person. Sorry, again, it was acceptable in
Yeah.
the 80s or 90s. So that is totally out of fashion. You don't need to smile if you don't like your teeth or if that's too playful for you, but smile at least with your eyes. So come across as professional and approachable. Step number one. Step number two, invest in a background picture. Don't do it by yourself. In 95% of all cases, with all my respect, it just looks like kindergarten work, or as if you would be stingy and not invest $5 or euro into a platform like Fiverr. Come on, seriously. Have this background picture that tells me within a second, in which industry are you? Into what kind of box should I put you in? Again, we shouldn't judge people. We shouldn't put them into boxes, but we do it anyway. So why don't we make use of this effect? And, show yourself in your element. Tell me what you do. Study other people in your industry, study other background pictures, and whatever you like, take screenshots of that. Take the, maybe 10 screenshots, then reduce this to the 3 ones that you like the most. Send this to a graphic designer and say, hey, these 3 I like, add this. Boom, this is how you have, a new thing out of that. Third thing, header. Please don't use fancy titles that nobody understands, but tell me what kind of value you add. What do you do for whom with which end result? And then the last point, because I could talk an hour about this, the last point is the info section or the about section. In the about section, this is the area where you please don't mention a story in a third person, a long, like really dusty, boring paragraph. No, this is the area where you tell your story, where you tell me about your unique value proposition. Talk about the things that make you interesting. Tell me what you're passionate about. Tell me why I should choose you and not your competition. Tell me about some results. You can mention a testimonial. Just tell me what it is so that I start to be more curious about you. And very important, use a call to action at the end.
Yeah, I think call to action is really important. And again, you can use that in the header image as well.
Yeah.
So let's move on to kind of content. And, LinkedIn, there's a huge selection of stuff you can post now. I've tried everything. I've tried video. I've tried sort of slide decks, like PDFs. Obviously, text-based posts. You can do polls, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen they're rolling out stories now in certain countries. I can't wait to get hold of stories. Obviously, we had a quick chat before about doing live LinkedIn stuff before we came on. And that was actually how we first met. So what sorts of content do you think work, and what sort of content should people be focusing on to begin with?
I think that tendency-wise, people overthink content creation. They want it to be perfect, and the expectations are way too high. I mean, it's like, it's a skill. For me, content creation, storytelling, copywriting, however you want to call it, is a skill. And when you learn something new, it is very human that you, wait for it, going to suck at the beginning. And that is okay. Forgive yourself and don't put these incredibly high expectation combined with perfectionism and the fear of what will other people think. That just blocks you.
Okay. And how about, on LinkedIn, it's just incredible looking at the sort of variety of content we see, because we do see some stuff which is like genuinely delivering value and trying to help people and, imparting your kind of knowledge or expertise. But then I also see a lot of stuff which is just really there to provoke a reaction. Like, people are posting memes or quizzes or, I don't know, just all sorts of random stuff, stuff that's going on in the business world, reporting on news stories. And to me, I kind of come to LinkedIn because I want to network and meet people and learn. I think I'm not necessarily interested to use it to find memes or as a news source. But then again, I see a lot of people who seem to have great success by posting these kinds of content, which is just more like comical stuff or trivial type content versus actually being useful. So what's your opinion on that? How do you strike a balance between posting stuff that's delivering genuine value versus just kind of creating content to get a reaction or gauge, responses and likes?
Well, it depends on your definition of success, because you said you see this kind of content and it seems to be successful. What does success mean to you? Does it mean that you get a lot of views and a lot of reshares and comments and questions and whatever? Because I know enough people who have like literally hundreds of thousands of followers and they get a lot of likes and comments and whatever, but they cannot pay their bills. That for me is not successful. That is a joke, and that is not being honest or true to yourself. And I know enough people who have almost no comments or no likes, 0 shares, but they have flooded inboxes with requests of, I want to work with you, let's jump on a phone call, oh my God, I love what you do. So let's not confuse a lot of engagement with success, because I think that's incredibly crucial. And I mean, for me, content shouldn't be about you. Content should be about or for your audience. So
I totally agree. Yeah.
right, like a few social media platforms, or let me put it the other way around. So I love Instagram. I think it's a great tool, and I spend a lot of time there. It's very popular here in the Middle East, but it's used in a total different way. It is used to, in my perception, showcase the highlights of your day, and maybe also to brag a little bit about your lifestyle. This is how I see it. And a lot of people believe that that's the way how to use social media. I think that is how some people use social media, and that's how some people use Instagram. And you can also take that and every now and then, put that into your content strategy. But nobody likes people who are like, my God, look at me, hashtag blessed, hashtag woke up like this, hashtag, I don't know what. That's just annoying and stupid.
Yeah.
You can do that every now and then to celebrate something. But even then, I would use a hashtag like hashtag humble brag, and use like a wink emoji to show people that I'm even not take myself seriously when I do that, but do it for entertainment purposes or to showcase my credibility.
Okay, so that moves us nicely along to kind of the next question, which is, how do we make sure that we've got a constant supply of content to talk about? I think a lot of people get really freaked out that they're going to run out of stuff to talk about, or they don't know what to talk about. So how do we define exactly what the strategy is, and how do we kind of start with, okay, like let's start planning our first month's content or second month's content? What happens if after a month or after a few weeks I run out of ideas or run out of things to talk about? How do you make sure that you've constantly got sort of a supply in your pipeline of content that you're putting out that people are actually benefiting from, versus just kind of, like we said before, just posting stuff for the sake of it?
So first of all, it's important that you plan your content. Like I pre-produce my content, like everything that I do basically. So I have a podcast, a German speaking podcast, and I record 4 till 5 podcast episodes once per month. On one day or on 2 days. So I make sure that the whole content for a month, I focus 1 or 2 days and I just get it out. When it comes to my LinkedIn videos, you won't believe it, it's crazy. I record maybe 30 videos, 20, 30 videos once every 8 till 10 weeks.
Wow.
It's nuts. Because I film this and then it lasts forever, because there's a podcast interview here, and then I do a live there, and then I got inspired by here and whatever. So I have so much content that I need to remind myself, hey, you've created these videos, get them out.
So what's your approach then? Do you just sit down and you kind of like, do you have those 30 ideas written down in advance?
Yeah, exactly. Because whenever I have an idea, I write it down. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They're like, yeah, I'll remember it. You know what? You won't. And that's totally ignorant to believe like, yeah, but I'm special when it comes to that. No, you're not. Chances are that you're not special.
Yeah.
You're unique. So write it down, like literally, into a notebook like that, or in an app on your phone. I literally have lists that are called content ideas. And whenever you feel inspired by something, write it down in a sentence. Whenever somebody comments below one of your posts with a question, say, amazing, we'll answer that next week or soon. Put it down on your list. If you can't do that, have an assistant. And I think one of the best advice that I ever received when it comes to content, because some people say, yeah, but I don't know, how can I create engaging content or fun content, or how do I get continuously new ideas? I think it was Ryan Holiday who said, the foundation for great content or for being a great storyteller is living an interesting life. And I was like, oh, nice one. So ask yourself, am I living an interesting life? Or do you do the same boring, lame, old fart, ridiculous stuff since 20 years and then wonder why you can't tell interesting stories?
Thank you very much. I'll make sure we put all the links to your site and book in the description below. And thanks very much for joining us today.
You're most welcome. Thanks. It was a lot of fun.
So by now, we've looked at our concepts, we've looked at our visual identity, and now we've started looking at how we can actually begin implementing our personal brand and rolling it out across the various different social media outlets that are available to us. All very exciting. Now, next time, finally, I want to touch on community and engagement. I think this is really important because it's very well putting messages out there just saying, yes, I'm great, I know about this, or I'm an expert in this field, but then how do we know that we're actually getting results? So it's very important to actually start engaging with our community or our audiences, and also then start to grow them as well. So we're going to be looking at not only engagement, but also growth. So we're going to be looking at all of that in the next video.